All right, it's Friday, February 23rd. This is an end of the week SPY recap. It was a shortened week of 4 days of trading. You can see here on the daily chart, this was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Essentially, Tuesday broke a little lower, kind of held on Wednesday with a kind of a two down green bar that kind of projected higher. So we had the big gap up on the NVIDIA earnings, had a nice day to the upside. And then today we gapped up a little bit, but kind of just held and, a little exhaustion risk. So we just kind of held up here. But overall on the weekly chart, it's a green week that continued higher, held the midpoint of the prior week, essentially closed strongly green. So you kind of expect that high to be tested next week, at least as a test. What I was discussing coming into the week from last week's recap was kind of this consolidation area. And I really wanted to see, given this kind of hammer look to it, if we kind of held in here on any kind of a downward move. I was kind of anticipating that, just given the nature of the price action down here. And as it turned out, for 2 days we went down, held, and then started back up in line with the trend that's strongly up. Had a little bit of 2 weeks of pausing, even though it looks like there was no pausing. There was a little volatility in here. So we have a little energy to continue higher, but there's still, on this weekly chart, exhaustion possibilities at any time to finally get a kind of a two down red bar in here. But that's going to, for next week, that would require a kind of a move up to start. That doesn't really go that far, then comes back through the midway point of that bar. If that starts to develop in the week, then you can almost maybe anticipate maybe a red 3 bar. But at that point, we'll see really what unfolds. I'm looking for more of a classic 2 down week where you come up, lose the momentum, then you get a 2 down, and you just kind of see how much of a pullback you get. We'll be able to look at some of the gaps. If we do get a pullback, in here, this could be filled. There's some, there'll be some liquidity stops down here. We'll go day by day, but for now, closed a little higher, so I'm expecting, follow through higher. The main thing for this week was it kind of worked out pretty much as anticipated, where we had that little red close at the top of this range last week on Friday. So you thought you'd kind of break a little lower from there, and you did that on Monday, and then on Tuesday. And then we actually try to go a little bit lower as well to the bottom of that range. But you had that big, I'll show you on Wednesday here, there was a really strong close. And that was kind of the sign that you're going to start higher. And the gap up is just because of the earnings. But either way, it was likely heading higher. Like I said, we did close near the high of the week. If we go day by day, that's kind of what I do at the end of the week usually. The pre-market range levels are on this red line here. If I go, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, on Tuesday, there was definitely, we went right below the pre-market low with the first bar. So you kind of got your one push down, pause, second push down, classic morning trade here. That's all that happened. Then it kind of just stayed within that range. It rallied a little bit, but by the end of the day, closed a little lower. So you kind of anticipated that you would test those lows again a little bit. What happened on Wednesday, as I recall, the first move kind of went down on bar 2, but didn't quite reach the pre-market lows or yesterday's low. And then it kind of moved up above the first bar high. So you kind of had a little bit of an up bias to start the session, but you didn't hit that liquidity on that first move down. So you kind of went up, you paused, came to the midpoint of that first bar, then made another push up, didn't really go anywhere. You were pausing, and you just sensed you were in a sloppy kind of range there. And it's just not surprising to me that it eventually came down to take out that area that it almost should have done right at the open. So anyway, came down, but then there was a very big explosive move here at the end of the day. And that was a sign to me that you're getting this big 2 down green reversal bar. I didn't know it was going to gap up this high, but I certainly anticipated now working towards the high of the previous week or the top of this range, and then seeing if you break out or not. As it turns out, you break out right out of the start here. This is the next day, and the pre-market highs was here, and you immediately, you had a little red bar, I think, but then bar number 2 was up for a buy, paused, then just continued up pretty much all day long. So there was a great day for trading to the buy side. And then today, I actually shot another video just kind of describing how I went short a few other stocks, but the market itself gapped up, a little exhaustion risk, so it just pause, and then you did have this down bar here. It never broke to the upside for a real, exhaustion risk, momentum continuation to the upside. If anything, it kind of held in here, and then once it broke down, that was a sign you were probably coming down to take out, some areas down below before moving up, and there was this kind of little trade here to the downside. But of course, with the strong trend, it kind of hit the close of yesterday. I'm not sure if it took out the stops right that might have been here, but it did pause and head up, and then you just went sideways the rest of the day. So it was a type of day where you really couldn't get long out of the gates. If you wanted to get short here, you had to know you're still way above the midpoint of the prior day, so you're just looking for a little scalp down to some kind of target. It was kind of a pivot machine gun of the pre-market action towards the close of yesterday, as it turned out. That was the only trade. And then if you want to do this red to green buy in here, that's fine too, and you just kind of got one push, two pushes up, and it just wasn't getting momentum. The move was kind of too big to the downside to really look to test those highs again, and you're at kind of exhaustion risk after the gap. So it's not surprising it was just a bounce in here. And I actually shot an NVIDIA video showing how I bought kind of this red to green and was only expecting kind of a bounce. And as it turns out, that's all you got. And then we closed right, it just kind of chopped around here after that first move lower. So that's it for the week. A little red bar here. This might be a little move down to start the week. That would kind of be nice, actually, if we kind of start lower here, don't get to the midpoint of that week, and then try to move up. So that could be the way this week unfolds. If we break lower, maybe try to test this gap before, then you look for a 2-up bar to really resume the uptrend. If we start up and, like I said, fail and come back through this bar, it could be the start of maybe failing on this week and coming back to the midpoint of that week. Let's see where that kind of that lines up with this gap area. So a lot's going to depend if we move lower, what happens in this gap. We'll have to just analyze it. But for this week, pretty clear what to expect. The main thing being that I thought this range in here of the two previous weeks had an opportunity to hold in here and just consolidate and continue the uptrend. And that's kind of what happened on the first 2 days, and we moved up. So let's see how things go next week. We know some of the key levels to watch. We'll know the open on Monday. That'll be a good reference point to know whether the week is green or red. And we know what a failure looks like, and we know what continuation looks like. So let's just see, again, on this weekly chart, that's kind of the main one, where it goes, expecting to test higher in some form. We'll see if it happens the first day of the week or a little later if we start lower. And the monthly chart, just, to give a view here, that's big, strong green as well. So it's possible, we're going to close February, it looks like, kind of to the, we'll see what happens next week, but we're heading up. So the trend's still up, and there's no, nothing, even though we can get some kind of pullback eventually or pause, that we know we're kind of biased to the long side, looking for various opportunities when they unfold. And this was the big reversal day here that I think was the key to this whole week, that would have allowed, if you're more of a longer term trader, would have signaled that the trend up is likely to continue. So we'll see where we go starting next week.